talking East Carolina Pirates today on Sharpen the Point. 2024, they were 8-5. It was a miraculous turnaround mid-season for interim coach Blake Harrell taking over for Mike Houston. He now is the full-time coach. Mike Houston, JMU guy, he should have stayed there, but we're thankful he didn't because we got the better end of that deal. He went 5-2, Harrell did, including a bowl win. It gained him the full-time nod. That bowl win over NC State was a big stamp on the end of that season. Offensive coordinator John David Baker's back for his second run. And then DC-wise, they changed him out. We get Josh Aldridge in his first season. He was the Auburn defensive line coach a year ago. He's previously been the Liberty defensive coordinator. He's an interesting name to watch, somebody that could do a good job of helping to keep this program successful in the long run. Quarterback-wise, Caden Hauser's going to return. He's going to lead the offense on the back of a vastly improved 2024 season. It saw him put up 2,000 yards passing in only 8 starts. He had 22 total touchdowns. He showed he can put up some serious numbers in a few games last year with 5 touchdown passes in 2 different games, over 300 yards passing in another 2 different games. So that showed our upside of how good he can be in this system under John David Baker. However, Hauser's going to need to cut down on his INTs. He had 11 and 8 starts, and that's simply not going to cut it if he wants to improve further as a passer for the full season. Now, behind him, they did a good job of adding experienced backup in Mike Wright. He has been all over the place in the SEC and the Big Ten, just kind of collecting paychecks at this point. He's going to back up Hauser after limited success and starts at all 3 previous stops, Mississippi State, Vandy, and Northwestern. And he's an athletic threat. He could be utilized in a couple packages here and there, but let's be honest, we're really hoping that we only see him in mop-up duty or in limited capacity at all, because Hauser's going to need to be the gunslinger to run this show, because Wright does not have that capability. Running back-wise, longtime backfield stalwart Rajay Harris. He's going to depart his feature role that saw him gain over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground last season. His presence is going to be sorely missed. The competition for those reps is going to be high, though. You have returners Marlon Gunn and London Montgomery. They're going to battle transfer Parker Jenkins from Houston for the top spot. I think Gunn is the least likely to seize this role. He's going to be more of a complimentary, safe piece, and it's going to be Montgomery and Jenkins the likeliest candidates to lead this room. Jenkins had some good success at Houston early on. He just was not able to maintain it, and clearly Willie Fritz was not super impressed by him, so he departed. Montgomery, if you remember, came from Penn State. He has a ton of burst, as seen by his 71-yard run in the spring game. I can expect a good bit of rotation, especially early in the season, as we see who will elevate to take on more work as the season progresses. I think Montgomery leads this room, with Jenkins a close second, and I don't know that we really see Gunn take on heavy work. He's probably going to be limited 5 touches a game-ish here and there in some safe spots. But your clear home run hitters are Montgomery and Jenkins. Pass catching wise, the losses of TD leader Winston Wright to graduation and Chase Soule to Iowa State are going to hurt the top end of the room. Soule, to me, is the biggest hit. I think he's going to have a really nice season at Iowa State as the number 1 there. Anthony Smith is the clear leader of the room now after having led the team in yards at nearly 806 touchdowns a year ago. He's going to be a vertical deep threat, taking the top off of the defense, playing in and out, as far as that stuff goes. He's just kind of going to run a little bit of wind sprints out there, but he's going to hit some big games. So you're going to want to be on him when he has that capability. Now, we don't know when those are going to come, though. Joining him on the outside is going to be Yannick Smith, who will have his role increased, replacing Soule, after he really got his feet wet late last season when Soule was a little banged up. And he came on strong, closing out the year, clearing 55 yards in each of the final 4 games, with a 100-yard game in there as well. Yannick really has the tools to win at all levels, and I expect him to be the breakout season guy maybe even clearing Anthony Smith. Smith's going to kind of repeat his role and keep what he had. It's going to be Yannick Smith who's going to really take a big step. And then adding Jaquez Petaway from Oklahoma to the slot role, which was vacated by Wright, provides a ton of upside given his athletic profile. Petaway really stood out in the spring, and he could have a chance to put up better numbers than Wright did a year ago as well, allowing Hauser to further improve. Now, a key backup for them is going to be Tyler Johnson. He came from Penn State. He also stood out in the spring. He's going to be a rotational piece early in the year for the starting three guys. He brings a nice set of hands. He makes a ton of catches using them, and he high points the ball in contested catch situations, even though he's not a super tall wide receiver. He's good getting vertical in the air to catch balls. Along the offensive line, 3 starters graduate from a year ago, but it's going to be returns of Emmanuel Poku and Jamarion McCrimmon. They're really going to help anchor this unit as they are clear building blocks for them. And they made a few additions from the portal, with Kyle Long from Maryland being the top of the group, in my opinion, and he's going to start right away. So 3 of your spots are locked in. Now, after those 3, who will start where is going to be up in the air because things are moving. Because starting center Carson Jones was lost in the spring with a knee injury, and that threw a lot of stuff into flux. The depth is quality. I really like this unit overall, and it should be a quality unit no matter who lines up where. We're just not quite certain come the opening game who's going to be where along that line of scrimmage with that late loss to Carson Jones there. Along the defensive line, the defensive front mostly graduated, all of them. CJ Mims unexpectedly really jumped to North Carolina late, and then Raheem Craig and JD Lampley, they're going to start on the edges as the only 2 returners along the line to have seen significant playing time previously. Craig's got to the quarterback a lot last year. He needs to be more consistent overall in his game play in and play out, in order to improve further. And then 2 key rotational pieces at the tackle spots are going to be Preston Carr and Zion Wilson. They've put in time to develop behind the scenes after they were both walk-ons, and they're now poised to make an impact on the field. They really learned from the older guys who played a ton that graduated now. Carr specifically is going to be a vocal leader in the room, having learned from those predecessors of what it takes to be a starting caliber defensive lineman in this conference. Linebacker-wise, the losses of leaders, Mike Edwards and Zakai Barker, that's going to sting. But this is an older group on the defense, and they're going to be relied upon to help stabilize the turnover around them. Sam Danka, he's a freak. He's 6'6", 230. He can play anywhere from nickel to outside linebacker. Heck, he could put his hand in the dirt, play a little defensive end at that size. And they're going to try him at inside linebacker first, after they've just tried numerous times to find a home for him. You got to find a way to get him on the field. So wherever he's most comfortable is where he needs to play, because he's just a nasty playmaker for that defense. Damian Wilson, he's going to step into a starting role as well. He's played a lot of football. I think he's going to be a quality player. So I love the look of this linebacker room. It's got a lot of quality pieces. Defensive back-wise, starting nickel, Gavin Gibson. He went to North Carolina. Cornerback, Isaiah Brown-Murray went to Virginia Tech. 2 big losses there. Otherwise, there was a lot of important graduations, which further depleted the unit. Namely, Siobhan Revelle, who went to the NFL, and Omar Rogers, who had a standout season a year ago as well. Tegan Wilkes going to return after a stint at Houston to start at a safety spot, while the addition of cornerback Jordy Lowry from Western Carolina is extremely intriguing to me. He had 6 INTs a year ago, played very well for Western Carolina. I think he can step right into a starting role. Overall, the defensive backfield clearly has the most question marks of the defense, and it's primed for a precipitous drop-off given the lack of returning production. Moving into the 2025 schedule and outlook, I think this is a season where they're going to need to rely heavily on the offense to carry them to victories, by comparison to previous years where it was the defense that kind of carried them along. But that thing was hit heavily by graduation in the portal, which had depleted what was a very good unit. Now, they started the season in an interesting set of events. They have to go to NC State. Now, that's a rematch of the bowl game, and NC State's going to be just angry from that bowl game. I think that you're not beating Dave Dorn 2 games in a row, even at the end of one season and the start of another. So I'm going to lean NC State there. Campbell, you get an easy win. At Coastal Carolina, easy win to me. BYU, that's a tough one. I think that's a loss there. Army, man, it's always tough to deal with that scheme at any time, much less when you have a ton of defensive turnover, because you have to play so fundamentally sound of a defense. I think Army plays keep away, and we see a game very similar to that Army-North Texas game a year ago, where North Texas could put up points here and there, but turnovers were too much. Army took care of business. I think it's a coin flip. It's a close game, but Army just holds on to the football and is too much of a pain in the butt to deal with. At Tulane, I think Tulane's not as good as their odds are giving them credit for. I'm still worried about the quarterback position. I'm worried about the skill positions. I think they're ripe for the taking. Their coaching's too good. I'm going to lean Tulane here. But man, is that game in play for a win. Tulsa, I'm going to lean win there. Temple, I think at Temple, that's a win. Charlotte, I think that's a coin flip. I'm going to lean win because I think Charlotte has more question marks on defense than East Carolina does. But man, Tim Albin's a really good coach, and I think Charlotte's going to turn it around, and this could be a game where they can catch you. And then you finish just with a murderer's row of offenses here. Memphis, that's a loss. I think that's going to be a tough one. I think Memphis stays at that top upper echelon. There's going to be some shootouts here, though. At UTSA, I'll lean loss. I think UTSA is a quality program. That's going to be a shootout as well. And at FAU, that's a loss as well. I think you just get outscored in these final couple games. But, man, are they going to be fun to watch because there are going to be points put up left, right, and center. So if any of those games are on your DFS slates, load up on them because Caton Hauser's going to put up numbers, and those teams are going to put up numbers as well, specifically FAU running that just run-and-gun Zach Kitley offense. Overall, it's a manageable schedule early. I think they get some good quality wins early, but there's a lack of a quality defense that's going to be costly to them. A bowl game should be the goal every year, with an appearances in the conference title game every so often being the expectation. Not seeing Navy is going to be a benefit, as I believe that they are the cream of the crop in the AAC this year. But teams like NC State, BYU, Memphis, UTSA, and FAU can take advantage of a poor defense and post a solid number that you just can't get to given their defensive capability and offensive firepower. If the offense can score at will and limit the turnovers, they could make a run at a bowl game, but it's not going to shock me if this is a down season by comparison if you're just looking at the 5-2 run they went on to close it out for the interim coach.